yesterday, and you know how I feel about Mount Rushmore discussions. But since this is going on, Goz has slipped into the notes. Pro Wrestling Mount Rushmore. Pro Wrestling Mount Rushmore. Like if you had insured or invested with Jared all that money and then betted on me being willing to talk about Mount Rushmore, which would usually be a hard no. All right, but go ahead, boys. You're Pro Wrestling Mount Rushmore. And how did this even start?
Dan, did one of us just randomly text it to the other one?
Yes. So this might surprise you, but I waste a lot of time on TikTok. Big TikToker, not a poster, just a watcher. I'm a TikTok voyeur, if you will. And this girl, she did some TikTok about her
creep.
Creep voyeur. Whatever. Tomato. This girl posted a TikTok saying her Mount Rushmore, and I forget it. I think it was like The Rock, John Cena, Steve Austin, and somebody else.
So she was born.
It was Undertaker. Yeah.
So she was born in like 2000.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, right.
So it got me thinking about it, and I think I agree that Mount Rushmore radio talk is like the worst radio talk. Yeah. It's like the June Yankees and Red Sox are out of it. What are we going to talk about on the radio? It's Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. It's lowbrow and cheap, and nothing.
Who's the GOAT, LeBron or MJ?
Yeah, there's nothing I love more than cheap talk. But so the Mount Rushmore Pro Wrestling. I grew up a big wrestling fan. Don't watch it like I used to, but I think it's an incredible conversation because you start talking Steve Austin, a legend.
Yes.
Yeah.
But to me, he did it for 4 years. How do you put him on the Mount Rushmore when he was what he was for such a short time? You can make the argument that he was just, so big, such a lightning rod that you can make that case. But I don't think he is.
Well, I think the problem with a Mount Rushmore discussion for pro wrestling, and I hate you all, is that you can only add 2 spots. Because Hulk Hogan is the freaking mountain,
right?
And if he's not, Ric Flair is,
right?
So you can only add 2 spots. So who are the 2 that stand next to Hogan and Flair? That's the only discussion.
All right, so we all universally agree on Hogan. Here's my issue with Flair, and I got some submissions already. We're gonna get to it. We see some of the Mount Rushmores coming in that song.
So. Is it really happening?
Yeah.
We go from Eminem on Godzilla. Nature Boy, woo!
Oh, there we
go. Yeah.
Here's the problem with Flair. My age, so I got into wrestling at the Monday Night Wars, sort of around the same time you did, Dan, as well. Flair was getting his ass kicked by the NWO. So as a little kid, you're like, who's this old guy with the crazy hair getting pounded away by the NWO right now? So Levack's probably right. Flair's got to be on the Mount Rushmore.
Here's where I disagree with you slightly, is that, but it was amazing. And what the NWO did, in coming against WCW, Flair was WCW. Flair, Sting, but unfortunately, Sting had the crow gimmick, so you didn't know where Sting fell. Right. So Flair, if you thought the NWO were the bad guys, if you bit your teeth into that narrative, then who was the good guy? And it was Flair.
Yeah.
Flair will be a legend for me forever because of the NWO skit. You can have my spot, not a liver spot, not a dog spot, my spot. That was such an amazing skit that 4 Horsemen, and I just think, for me at that age too, I love football. So you had Mongo McMichael, and then you had Kevin Green coming in and out. That was so cool.
Goldberg, of course, as well.
Right. A little bit later though, a little bit toward a little couple years into the Monday Night Wars. So I think what Flair represented in the '80s, which maybe you and I can't appreciate the way Grandpa Levack can.
Who's got the gray beard?
Is that we maybe can appreciate that, but for me, like you said, the Monday Night War side of it, I agree. Except I think I was a big WCW guy. I was much more into the NWO and WCW than I was the WWF at the time. So to me, Flair was the good guy. Which is weird because he was the heel and the Horsemen were the heels, and he was the dirtiest player in the game and all that. But when that NWO storyline came out and you bought into this, wow, these guys are here for the takeover. Flair became, the guy that was the good guy.
No doubt.
In that,
what Touch of Grey is forgotten too is 4 Horsemen, Evolution, more belts. He was the first guy to bring a belt to another. He brought the belt over to WWE or F at the time. Like he was a different thing.
Coach Hell. Coach Hell's got his Mount Rushmore. He wrote in
Coach Hell.
Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Undertaker is his Mount Rushmore.
It's different. That's different. I mean, see, the Dusty Rhodes part is going to get it's one of those when you don't think about all the independence and everything he did.
Yep.
You don't put him right in. I don't hate it.
But Go ahead, Dan. Oh, I was gonna say my Mount Rushmore now is this. I've changed it. Originally,
Well,
it was.
I think we should let's have the conversation.
Okay.
Let's do Mount Rushmore at the end. Is that you?
Yeah, that's good.
I'm
That's
not
perfect.
the PD. I'm not the PD here, but I
Guys, you agreed to do one Christmas special. The guy's fucking restaurant. All of a sudden, he's in
that
charge.
takes it over.
Right.
But I
Captain
think
Graybeard getting in trouble.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
let's do it again.
How many different ones can I do?
I think Dusty Rhodes.
You're embarrassing the whole family by talking about pro wrestling. Stop it.
I think what Dusty Rhodes' impact on wrestling, again, for Goz and I, it was behind the scenes.
Right.
Things he did booking for WCW. I think that you could make that case. I also think Mount Rushmore, you have to look at total package, right? Like
Lex Luger.
Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But like The Rock, John Cena, are they on your Mount Rushmore? Maybe not for their wrestling, but because of their ability to bring it to the mainstream. And their ability, they were kind of that Hulk Hogan was in, Thunder in Paradise and, the Nanny or whatever it was. Did The Rock and John Cena then make it, bring it to that next level of mainstream media?
I see. I don't even want to go into the mainstream media part. I really don't want to do this conversation, but since we're here, I think you gotta go. But like, I don't think if there isn't a Hulk Hogan, I don't think there is a Rock. You know what I mean? Like if there isn't and with Cena, I don't think Cena gets away with saying the things he said if there wasn't a Flair. Because Flair said things nobody was allowed to say back then. And then when Cena...
Including helicoptering on a plane.
Well,
which is difficult in itself.
It's a little cold here. I can't do that. And I'm Scottish. But no, I don't know. Well, what's your Mount Rushmore?
All right, so my Mount Rushmore, I've changed it. It originally was Hogan, Cena, Rock, and Austin. But now I'm taking The Rock off, and I'm going super old school. Bruno Sammartino is now on my Mount Rushmore. Like the ultimate, you want to talk about pro wrestling, he was the first of all those guys. So this is like...
You guys give me a hard time for picking new mass. This guy pulls Bruno Sammartino out of
this is like
wrestling Mount Rushmore.
It's like Babe Ruth or Wilt Chamberlain on your Mount Rushmores of other sports. I'm going to drop Bruno on there.
You got it.
So I think you got it for me, Hogan, Flair, and then I think The Undertaker has to be on there. And you mentioned Bret Hart, HBK. I think HBK is my fourth. I think you go Hogan, Flair, Undertaker, and Shawn Michaels.
So I definitely go Hogan, Flair. I'm not putting the Underachiever on. You can't show up once a year and get my vote. I'm sorry. I'm definitely putting HBK on because I think Shawn Michaels, what he was able to transcend to become what he was, and then he kept it alive. But the guy that everybody leaves off, and I think was probably the best, was Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Bret the Hitman Hart, man. I remember being front row. I think it was the Pepsi at that time, and he's walking around, he's jaw jacking everybody. And I'm like, "You're the best there is, was there?" And he's like, I confused the man. He's like, all right, and he kept going. No, so those are two guys. I love the way they fight. I love what they do. So
I think Shawn Michaels, that Tyson angle they had too.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
In Boston.
That's right. Tyson was loud in Boston.
Boxers.
Yeah, that's what I meant. All right, no more wrestling talk ever again. I hope you like the fact that all of us have children and just had that conversation in public. We're not having it anymore. That's all there is to it.
I think Jimmy K, he wrote Chris Jericho. We saw your comment, Jimmy K. I think Jericho, 30 years, maybe he needs to retire. We'll reach out.
Well, what he's done with the AEW part, he's at least climbing up one of those faces.
For sure.
That's a big deal. He's in the cruise. He's got cruise. Nobody else is cruise.
We were supposed to be on that a couple of years ago. I don't know if we ever shared that story. We were supposed to be on it.
Yeah.
We got to win the trip.
That's an important factor there, guys. I was supposed to be a billionaire, but I lost a lot.
I'm just thinking, I'm trying to think what conversation I had with Dalton Castle that made me think we were going to be going on the trip. And he's like, "No, we were going to win our way." I'm like, "Oh, all right, no, okay, good." All right.
Before Levack, we get there, let's talk about our friends at Mohawk.